morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Katrina Thompson, and I am the mayor of the Village of Broadview. I would have preferred to host this press conference today to highlight the advances of Broadview is making in creating a green economy. But unfortunately, we're here for a much different and darker reason. The relentless deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, mace, rubber bullets in the vicinity of the United States Immigration Center and Customs Enforcement Processing Center in the Village of Broadview is endangering nearby village residents and harming Broadview Police Department, Broadview firefighters, and American citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. As you may know, as recently explained in a letter to leadership in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, in case they were unaware, the tear gas does not travel like a rubber bullet. Instead, it spreads aerosol or smoke cloud. As far as it removes depends on how it deployed in environmental conditions. The canisters or the projectile itself can travel hundreds of feet when launched. The gas cloud generally irritates people within 200 to 700 feet radius, but wind can carry it further and spread it unpredictably, and it has. Broadview police officers are routinely being exposed to ICE agents, tear gas volleys, forcing them out of action until they recover. Broadview firefighters and ambulance personnel are being exposed. Nearby residents are being exposed. That is saying nothing of American citizens exercising their free speech rights that ICE agents are firing up. The ICE volleys has gone beyond gas. Broadview Police Chief Thomas Mills was verbally assaulted by an ICE agent during the protest outside of the facility earlier this month. He has been doing this job as police officer for 37 years, a long time now. But he was stunned by the attack, he told me. Mayor, I have never been spoken to by a fellow law enforcement officer in such a way. All this chaos also creates allegations of criminal activity on their part. The Village of Broadview Police Department has launched 3 separate criminal investigations into ICE activities since they've launched their blitz in the Chicago area. That is 3 criminal investigations. Lots of rhetoric oozes from the White House about ending crime in urban areas. Well, from where I sit, ICE has generated criminal activity in Broadview. The Broadview Police Department has officially asked for the full cooperation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security into our criminal investigations, and we expect their cooperation. Additionally, I want to address head-on Department of Homeland Security claims that multiple calls for assistance have been placed to the Broadview Police Department by the leadership of the ICE facility, and that calls have gone unanswered. The department has made claims in press release on September 26, a letter from acting ICE director to me. They are false. The press release assertions are false. The letter, our police log is clear, accurate, and truthful. On September 19th, regarding Village of Broadview first responder activity at 11:39 a.m., the Broadview Police Department received a single call from the ICE facility informing us of objects being thrown onto railroad tracks behind their facility. Per our protocol, Broadview Police Department contacted Harbor Belt Railroad, which is responsible for track security, to alert their security service to address ICE concerns. That's it. Let me say this. Beleaguered Broadview residents, our Hispanic residents, our African American residents, our Asian American residents, our white residents are all begging for relief from ICE siege of our neighborhood and our community. They are texting me, they are calling me, they are coming into the Village Hall looking for help. In effect, the Department of Homeland Security is running a disinformation campaign that will make even Russian blush, and they are making war on my community. After I made the making war on my community in my letter to the Department of Homeland Security, ICE agents on this past Saturday morning informed Broadview Police Department officer in oral, in-person communication that would be a shit show in Broadview on Saturday. ICE agents told my officers that they would be launching enforcement action throughout all of Broadview throughout the day. Additionally, ICE informed officers that ICE agents will again deploying chemical arms such as tear gas, pepper spray, etc., against American citizens, our residents, and our first responders. ICE denied that exchange took place. But I trust the professionalism and the honesty of Broadview Police Department. They are the best in blue. In case you didn't notice, the chemical arms attacks continued on Saturday. If you watched or read the news from all over the weekend, the facts spoke for themselves. Now it all has to stop. ICE has to stop issuing falsehoods in their official communications, and instead they need to communicate truthfully with and about the village of Broadview and our first responders. ICE has to dismantle the fence. ICE has to stop putting our residents, our police officers, our firefighters, and American citizens in harm's way. ICE has to stop unprovoked chemical arms attacks on peaceful protesters and on journalists. This behavior is not normal. This is not Putin's Russia. This is the United States of America. We invented representative democracy, not military dictatorship. And because we are a democracy, I want to urge the protesters to continue to exercise your constitutional protected rights of free speech. But I want you to do it peacefully. I want you to raise your voices and not your fists. My guiding light, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who was no stranger to protest, and said, we must forever conduct our struggle on a high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. I urge protesters to follow the Reverend Dr. King's counsel. Now I have to say, it has not always been a perfect democracy. As Dr. King knew and fought to improve, this country tolerated the harmless inhumanity of slavery and Jim Crow laws way too long. And Dr. King paid the ultimate price in the quest for a more democratic United States. Nevertheless, we have made enormous progress. My presence here today as the first African-American female mayor of Broadview is a testimony to that progress. Nevertheless, racism does remain a feature of American life. That is true. Still, we have been making real progress. Now we're backsliding as a nation. As mayor, my governing approach to deploy love and kindness to achieve Broadview's objectives, following Dr. King's advice that nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love and that the only force capable to transforming an enemy into a friend. DHS and ICE leadership, their agents and their boss at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue should try it. They should heed Dr. King's advice. It can't hurt, it might help. That's what makes Broadview strong. Now I ask Chief Mills to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Thomas Mills. I am the Chief of Police for the Village of Broadview. We are experiencing an immediate public safety crisis. The deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, mace, and rubber bullets by ICE near the processing center in the Village of Broadview is creating a dangerous situation for the community and all first responders. Broadview residents, police officers, and firefighters, paramedics are being exposed to these agents. Our own Broadview police are routinely being exposed to ICE tear gas, forcing them out for an amount of time so they can decontaminate, get their breath, clear their eyes, which takes them out of service. The use of these weapons is directly harming Broadview's first responders. Currently, the Broadview Police Department has launched 3 separate criminal investigations into ICE activities since the Midway Blitz began in the Chicago area. We have requested the full cooperation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in these investigations, and we expect that cooperation to happen. As a longtime police officer, 37 years, I was verbally assaulted on September 12th while being on the scene, ensuring everyone's rights, First Amendment rights, were protected, as well as property. The ICE agents were doing their operation. Our officer was there, and one of the agents basically told me that I was a fascist and was not doing my job. Neither was my officers. I was offended because in my 37 years working with the Chicago Police Department, I've worked with a lot of federal agencies on criminal investigations. That has never happened. We may not always see eye to eye, but we find a way to work it out for the better of the community in our assignments. There's a lot of false claims and lack of communication. DHS claims that the Broadview Police Department has received an unanswered multiple calls for assistance from the ICE facility. That is totally false. Our message from the very beginning is we will respond to all calls for service. We have multiple businesses directly next to the ICE facility, and those businesses are key components in the village of Broadview and our livelihood, and they deserve the best service. So again, those statements are false. We respond to every call for service. On September 9th, as an example, as the mayor mentioned, we received only a single call from the facility about objects on the railroad tracks. We did respond, but we also contacted the Harbor Belt Railroad, who has their own police department, and they sent people. Nothing happened. This past Saturday, Friday was a very busy day over there. We had to initiate 2 ILEA's call-outs. Saturday, I was alerted by one of my officers, my deputy chief and I, is that the director, Greg Bovino, was on scene. They were first in our parking lot. We asked them to please leave our parking lot, at which time they told us that they would be doing a full blitz here in the village of Broadview, and it's going to be a shit show. And also, they will be deploying more gas, tear gas and pellets in and around the facility at the demonstrators. In conclusion, I want to say, a sincere thank you to the Illinois State Police, our Cook County Sheriff, all the municipalities directly where the mayors are standing with me. Their police departments have responded to all of our calls for assistance. We are still doing mutual aid requests. And at this time, I want to restate my request to ICE and DHS for regular, routine, and consistent cooperation and communication with the Broadview Police Department. Thank you. I'd like to now bring the Fire Chief, Chief Matt Martin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Martin. I'm acting Fire Chief for the Broadview Fire Department. I want to address the illegally constructed fence. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE facility in Broadview illegally built a fence on a public street, Beach Street, in the early hours of September 23rd. This construction was done without a permit, and it's on a street under the jurisdiction of the village of Broadview. The federal government is not above our local laws. This fence is currently blocking access for the Broadview Fire Department to businesses on that road. In case of a fire or other emergency, our apparatus cannot use the street to get to the scene. Each day this fence remains, the risk of tragedy increases. That is the law of probability, and it applies to everyone, including the federal government. Broadview Fire Department immediately reached out in formal communication to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on September 23rd, demanding the fence be removed. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has failed to respond officially to those demands. This is a clear defiance of local law and an unacceptable disregard for public safety. Our demand is clear. We restate our demand to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, follow the law, and remove the fence immediately. Our personnel have been responding to emergency calls during protests, providing first aid and transporting people to the hospital. My men and women have been exposed to chemical agent attacks while performing their duties. The risks to our Broadview Fire Department personnel remain my daily, constant worry. The failure to remove this fence only adds a pattern of behavior that endangers our first responders and the community they serve. Thank you for your time. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Rivero from the City of Berwyn.
Thank you, Chief. So I'm here today for one reason. My reason is this young lady standing to my left, as well as all the other mayors that are standing up here. We are here to work together to try and make sure that our residents are protected in this time. Because right now, we've heard about ethnicities, we heard about slavery, we've heard about all different things, but this is a human rights issue. This is something that we should all recognize. We should have grown up from what happened past years. We should now realize that we're progressing backwards. And this is a human rights issue. I'm also here to introduce a resolution that the City of Berwyn passed 8-0 that is going to be brought to City of Washington, D.C. by myself on October 6th to give to the hands of our legislators, if they are there, with respect to asking our federal legislators to pass legislation to make sure that these agents are unmasked and provide identities if our police department encounters them on the street. Because there's a lot of fraudulent people out there trying to pretend that they're with the federal government. We should have the right to have identification and know, our police department needs to know who we're dealing with. We in Berwyn are a welcoming city. We do not cooperate with the federal agencies. However, we want to make sure that our people, our residents, are protected. And that's what we're all here for today, is to make sure that the residents of our communities, their rights are protected. And I stand with Mayor Thompson and everything that she has said, and I thank you for inviting me.